Hello, friends, and welcome to a Monday edition of the Kings of Anglia Ipswich Town podcast. Hope you've had a good bank holiday weekend praising Her Royal Highness, Her Majesty the Queen. We are back to talk about football. We haven't been able to talk about it since Town made their second signing of the summer because of the bank holidays. We went all together and Mr. Stuart Watson was off for half term, but we are back on this Monday morning. I am Mark Heath, I'm your host, and my two special friends join me. Andy, the Hutchman, Hutch Hogan Warren, first of all, freshly shorn for the summer. Hutchie, looking very good indeed, looking slick. How are you?
It really excites you when anyone gets a haircut, doesn't it? I get it cut once a month, on the dot, shear it back, let it grow again, rinse and repeat. That's the game. That's the cycle.
Mate, you worked with me for many years now. You know I'm a bear of very little brain, and really small things excite me. I'm your diametric opposite in that regard. So yeah, I'd like to see you looking sharp, my friend.
Yeah, we're coming up to 5 years of working together.
Are we?
Properly? Yeah. That's 60 haircuts in that time,
and I've been as excited for every single one,
and many more to come, I'm sure.
That's the beauty of it. Someone who doesn't have to worry about haircuts. Sorry, Watson. The doctor, Stuart Watson. How's things?
Yeah. Still bald. I'm back and I'm bald, balder than ever.
Back balder than ever. What a catch line!
One day, mate, you're going to come back and you won't be, and that'll be the big shock,
the big reveal.
He's done the normal.
You see those videos now that you can get like the stick-on ones, can't you? That look really. Have you seen Cole Pilkington did it in one of the Idiot Abroad episodes?
Yeah,
they always look so excited, and they look really good. But I can't just suddenly just turn up one day. Like I just suddenly log on to this, and I've got a full head of hair.
We just don't talk about it. No one mentions it.
You're right, Stu. Yeah, just don't mention it. I like the idea of you, like almost at the Suffolk show, Andy, getting actually sheared, like along with the sheep. There's just you getting.
If you see the floor of the barbers, mate, it's close. It's once I'm done, it is close to that kind of scene.
You're nearing that sort of status now, boys, where people would probably pay Hutchie to watch you get shorn at the Suffolk show. As one of the attractions in the main ring.
Get his back done as well. His famously hirsute back.
That's another discussion for another day. But yeah, that is something that needs to be addressed.
Is it in the summer as we approach the summer anyway? Because
potentially,
absolutely hissing it down at Heath Towers at the moment, boys. Stewie, before we get going, obviously you've just had the week off for half term. What was the best thing you did?
Oh, that's a good question. I went to see Alan Partridge at the O2.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, midweek. I said it was the best thing I did. I don't know if any of the listeners attended any of the dates, but I was a little bit disappointed. Actually, felt a little bit rushed. Coogan was chucked a show together to take some coinage. It felt a bit lazy.
How does that work then? Is it like him kind of interviewing people as Partridge?
Well, no, it was loosely kind of based around sort of Alan Partridge has put together a bit of a TED Talk self-help kind of thing, but the theme was very loosely adhered to. But yeah, that in terms of sort of most exciting things I did, that was about it really. A few village fetes and jubilee things and stuff like that, but nothing wildly exciting.
It's tremendous to have you back, Stu. Do you know what I did yesterday on the theme of something exciting? I went to see the new Top Gun film, Top Gun Maverick. Good Lord, boys. No, I know you've never seen Top Gun. We've already discussed this, and you've got no interest in it. And I must say, having rewatched it as a build-up to this, it hasn't really stood up to the test of time, the original Top Gun. There's a lot of underlying themes that I didn't notice the first time around, shall we say, as well as a lot of very bad teeth. Clearly, veneers weren't a thing back then. But this one, oh my goodness, what a film. I don't know if this kind of thing would interest you, Hutchie. It's kind of cheesy and predictable, but in a good way. And the action sequences, because they're all actually filmed flying in these planes, you can see the effect of the G-forces on the kind of actors' faces as they're going at these incredible speeds, doing these maneuvers. Highly, highly recommend it. Is that something that would interest you now, Hutchie? Top Gun Maverick?
Not. It wouldn't be top of my list. I mean, I want to know about the teeth. Are the teeth sorted now?
Absolutely.
Are the teeth better?
Yeah, you don't have bad teeth in Hollywood now, do you? And Cruise very much at the front of that queue. If you look at a picture of Tom Cruise from about the age of 21, compared to his teeth now. Clearly had a lot of work done. But I would argue that Tom Cruise is the last great movie star, boys. He's this kind of iconic uber celeb who's always in cracking films. And every Tom Cruise film is a bit of an event, isn't it? And I don't think you have those kind of movie stars anymore. They're all a bit more normal and accessible and on Instagram and things like that. Whereas Cruise just is still that kind of top tier, slightly above a normal human being in many ways, clearly. So yeah, I'd highly recommend it, friends. Top Gun Maverick. If you're looking for something to go and watch, brilliant film. Absolutely loved it. Friends, let's talk about football because that's also exciting. Last week on Wednesday, Ipswich Town made their second signing of the summer. The transfer window hasn't even opened yet. It's not swung open like it always does. I think that's on Wednesday, isn't it? But they signed Dominic Ball, a veteran, experienced midfielder from QPR. I say veteran, he's only 26. On top of already signing Freddie Ladapo, the striker. Hutchie, I'm going to come to you first. Dominic Ball, what do we make of it?
Important piece of the puzzle, I think. A simple footballer, a good person by all accounts. Win the ball back, give it to others, facilitate. A vital cog in football teams, which was maybe missing at times. So a quite simple summation of him from me, really. But a piece of the puzzle that I think was very much needed.
I want to talk about him as a person in a minute because he's a really interesting character. I did a background on him, went way too deep into his career and things that he's done and stuff that he's done off the pitch last week. I found it really interesting. He's going to be a really good interview when we get a chance to speak to him. But purely from a football sense, Stewie, what do you make of it as a signing?
Purely from a football sense, I'm really excited about this signing. As much as his kind of off-field character as his on-field stuff, but if we're just talking about the football side of things, I think Andy's mentioned it there. You have to have your water carriers. You have to have some physicality in your team in League One. I think we've seen that during Ipswich's 3 years in League One, that when they've come up against Rotherhams and Accringtons and people like that there's been times where they've been outfought and bullied at times. I think he'll bring a good bit of height, a good bit of aggression, and will free up. You would imagine if he's partnered with Morsey in midfield, and Lee Evans will have something to say about that. Of course, that allows Morsey to continue doing the attack-minded job that he's kind of been converted into under McKenna. There's some good versatility in him as well. Obviously, I think he'll have been signed primarily as one of those holding, as the sort of holding midfielder, but he can play centre back. He's played right back in his career as well. But yeah, just ticks so many boxes for me in terms of a good age. 26, will turn 27 in August. Has played for Rangers, so he's someone who's kind of primed for pressure. I think when you come to playing for Ipswich Town in front of big crowds in League One with a certain expectation on your shoulders, we've seen certain players thrive under that, others fold under it. I think no doubts there that Dominic Ball will be able to handle that when you look at his career, and just someone that's got that real hunger in him, someone who feels like he's still got a real big point to prove entering the prime years of his career. So I think this is a really prudent, sensible, good signing for Ipswich Town.
Yeah, just on that note, I mean, you talk about him being a physical presence. He's 6'2". He certainly looks athletic, doesn't he? He looks like someone who can do the physical stuff, the dynamic stuff that we know McKenna wants. And mentioning there, he's playing for Rangers. He played for Rangers 30 times in the season they got promoted back to the Premiership, and also in that famous upset of Celtic in the Suffolk Cup, the Scottish Cup semi-final.
Now
that would be a story. That would be a story, wouldn't it? In the Suffolk Cup, on penalties, and there's some great quotes from him about how that was the best year of his life, and that particular game was the best thing he's ever been involved in. The atmosphere, the whole feeling they were going to win, despite the fact they were going up against a Celtic side on their way to another title in the league above them. Tremendous stuff. Where do you see him fitting, Andy? I mean, I speculated, and Stu just done it there, that the obvious place for him to fit, if he is being brought in to contend for a starting spot, would be as a partner for Morsey, as a more defensive-minded partner, who's content to let Morsey do the gallivanting forward, and he's cleaning up at the back and breaking play up and knocking people asunder if need be. Is that the obvious place for him? Can you see him contending for that role?
Yeah, more than contending for it. I don't think there's any doubt that he's been brought in to, at the very least, contend for a starting spot there. No doubts about that. I think if Morsey misses games, I think you might. I think his presence will make that a bit less noticeable. You'd obviously bring somebody else into the team to replace Morsey, but I think you'd still have a physical presence in midfield if he misses games. And history has shown that Sam Morsey will miss some games due to suspensions at some point. That's an edge that Morsey plays on, so that's important as well. He played with Andre Dezelle a fair amount at the start of last season with QPR, so he's kind of played a role for Andre, in that I obviously didn't watch the QPR games, but all I can imagine there is that his job was to just win the ball, be physical in midfield, and get the ball nicely to Andre. So he'll do that for Morsey, no doubt, and Morsey's got that bit more forward thrust than Andre with the ball at feet as well. So a good signing, a bit of a glue guy who could be a really, really important player for the team, I think.
If you look at the QPR fans' feedback when he left, a recurring theme is that someone who always gave 100% and was a bit of a fan's favourite in terms of just someone who just gives his all for the team, and that ultimately is what fans love to see. And I think it's probably, the penny has maybe finally dropped at Ipswich that you need somebody like that to get as much as you need the other components of the team as well. So I think him and Morsey, if those two play at any stage, could be talk about intensity. I think both as characters and playing style, those two are going to be the intensity twins, because Morsey is off the pitch very intense character, on the pitch very intense as well, and I think Dominic Ball is going to mirror that. And there have been times where Rotherham have played Ipswich, and I remember people like who were the two in midfield, Lindsay and Barley's less of, he was more of the player, but I was thinking of the two that were really biting at heels. His name escapes me now. But there was Lindsay was one, and he's a good player. Anyway, the two of those, when they came to Portman Road and were just smashing into tackles and were just really intense, and I think Ball and Morsey could do that, and Evans is capable of it as well. But we talked about the potential for Morsey to miss games through suspensions. I guess the bigger question mark is over Evans. We've just had a few little injuries here and there as well. So, really sensible signing, I think.
You're both talking about him as if he's going to start. Is that how you see it?
If you ask me right now, yeah. There's obviously pieces of the puzzle to come together for Ipswich and a lot to happen over pre-season, but I can picture him as an opening day starter, yeah.
And he's got that link to McKenna again, hasn't he? In terms of McKenna worked with him at Tottenham, so he'll be aware of his ability and also his character as a person, which is what I want to come on to now, because for a footballer who tend to be fairly kind of stereotypical and kind of cut from the same mould. Ball has got a really interesting background. He's a published author for a start, which is unusual for a footballer. So, like our absent friend, the Big Porker, he's got a book out, and it's about essentially him and 5 of his friends, their journey to try and make it as professional footballers. And it's actually raising money for Sarcoma UK, because one of those friends, unfortunately, had sarcoma and ended up passing away. And as part of that, Dominic raised something like 130 grand charity wise to pay for treatment for him overseas, because there wasn't anything they could do in this country. And there was a good interview I watched on the QPR website actually when the book came out, about how he, as a footballer, he has so much spare time on the road, time on his own, traveling to games, whatever, and he wants to do something positive with it. I guess other than just playing Xbox or whatever that footballers would normally do. So not only has he written a book, he's also got a business studies degree, which he's done part-time away from football. So as a character, he's a bloody interesting, good bloke, you would say, Stewie.
Yeah, as I say, he seems to be quite an intense character, that someone who really commits himself to everything that he does. Again, I say there's some Morsey comparisons there. I think we saw a picture of Sam Morsey getting on the club coach with what book was that he was holding, Andy? When
was it about leadership? Was it something about leadership?
Self-help? I think it was to do with business and stuff like that as well. So it'd be interesting to see how the two of them hit it off as players and people as well. He's highly ambitious. I listened to it. There's a really good interview with Dominic on Talk Sport last month, and Andy will vouch for this. I never got round to doing the central midfielders Ipswich might target, because I've done strikers and attacking midfielders first and left midfield because they're the sexier positions. But after I heard that Dominic Ball interview, I mentioned to Andy, I said, I really think they might go for him. You know, he just the way he spoke about his book. The way he spoke about the book, he was just a really interesting character. He was on with Simon Jordan and Jim White, and just someone who's really ambitious, who just talked about his whole journey of being let go by Watford and not quite making it at Tottenham, and this burning ambition to play in the Premier League. And his whole dream has been to play for Man United, and everything has been based around him ultimately playing for Man United. So you can imagine the McKenna and the Pert side of things really probably swayed him, because he revealed in that interview, and that was only on the 11th of May. That he had been speaking to championship clubs, and his, I believe I'll be at a championship club. So Ipswich have come to the table and managed to persuade him to drop down a level here. And, the McKenna stuff and the Man United stuff has probably helped get that deal done. I'm not sure any other managers would have got Dominic Ball to drop down to Ipswich. So, yeah, a really interesting character here.
So what you're saying, Stu, was he would have been number one on that list had it existed. He would have been top of the list.
He would have been on the list, but he just. I'll be honest, I didn't know loads about Dominic Ball until I heard that interview. But you listened to it and you just thought, what an articulate young man. He just seems to break the mold for footballers, and someone that talked about the academy dream for youngsters and the role of parents in sort of managing those dreams of youngsters. You talked about his career pathway and falling out of love a little bit with football while he was out on loan at Aberdeen, and coming back to his room on his own after training, and how that's made him a more robust and resilient human being that is what you need to succeed in football. So, yeah, his character as much as his on-field ability, which I can only judge by what others have said about him, interests me in this as a signing.
Can we find out? You mentioned there's Sam Morsey's pre-match reading. Can we find out more about that? Because I love the idea of Sam Morsey taking the art of war onto the coach with him by Sun Tzu, isn't it? So the ultimate kind of pre-match, pre-war battle guide. Maybe a bit of Machiavelli in there as well. Let's do more on that. The obvious question now, boys, as we move on from the Ball signing and with the transfer window opening officially this week, is how many more, Hutchie? They've already got striker, and Stu, we need to talk about your thoughts on Ladapo, actually, don't we? Because you went around. But they've already got a striker in the door. They've already got a central midfielder. We know this summer really needs to be a lot more focused, and we know the positions they're looking at: left-sided specialist, and maybe another striker. How many more do you think they need now, Hutchie? Because they're doing their business very early, which is to be applauded.
Yeah. This is obviously the free agent crop, which is being done on the early side. Much easier to do. To get those ones tied up and done early doors. You kind of have to, but they need a left sider. We know that. I think Ball's signing probably, and obviously Ndaba and everything there probably alleviates the need to bring in any kind of centre back if we were even thinking about that, which I don't think we ever thought was the case. I think there's every chance they'll need a goalkeeper down the road, but that would require Hladky to move on first. So I still think they need another striker, another left sider, and I still wouldn't rule out another central midfielder in there as well. But and there will no doubt be more as well.
They need like I don't know if you're classing sort of an attacking midfielder as that other central midfielder, but whether it's Selena or
that as well. I still wouldn't rule out another midfielder, proper midfielder.
Is that dependent on once he's had a proper look at Harper in pre-season? Do you now kind of, you've got Ball in, got Morsey Evans, that's a really solid 3 there, and then he takes pre-season now to have a proper look at El Mazzuni, a proper look at Harper, a proper look at Cameron Humphreys, and then assess it from there, and maybe that one comes if you decide that you want to place those players elsewhere. That may be one for later down the line, possibly if you're looking at another proper central midfielder.
Yeah, I still think they will bring in another one. That's my gut feeling on it. But yeah, that probably will require at least one of those to go. I'm sure at least one of those will go somewhere for next season in by some mechanism, be it permanently or on loan.
Stewie, while you're here and we're talking about signings, we need to get your view on Ladapo as one of the strikers they've brought in. Obviously, we know Hutchie's disgusted by the move, doesn't want him at the club.
Right, I've got my right. Do you need the statement again? Do you need it again?
Go on, read it again.
No,
you haven't got it.
Okay. I haven't got it to hand. But...
Yeah, but Hutchie, elephant in the room, not happy. But what did you make of Freddie Ladapo as a signing? And the consensus was when we talked about it last week on the pod is that he's not going to be the man, as it were. He's going to be one of the men up front. The main striker signing is yet to happen. Your thoughts, please.
He might be the guy. There will be another striker, but that's not to say that Ladapo becomes the main striker. Let's not forget how many goals he's scored in this division over 3 seasons now, with Plymouth and Rotherham twice. Last season, he's fired. What did he get? 15 last season? Yeah. For a team that got promoted, Ipswich have gone and signed someone that's just scored 15 goals in a team that got promoted from the division that they're going out of on a free transfer. And I know there'll be comparisons to say, well, Norwood was a proven goal scorer and Pigott was a proven goal scorer. Norwood hadn't done it at League One level before he came here, and Pigott had done it. That was a one-off season. Is that fair? Have I underestimated that? But he scored. Had he done that before for Wimbledon at League One level? Not to that degree, had he?
No.
So I think it's a little bit different if we're talking about the closest thing to a surefire hit at this level for somebody who's done it 3 times in this division in terms of goals. Again, I think that's a really sensible, prudent signing. A very different character, I think, going by general consensus of those who know him and have seen him and worked with him. I think he's going to be a bit more laid back. I think there's going to be games where people say he can look a bit lackadaisical and very, very different to everything we've just discussed about Dominic Ball. I remember years ago covering Colchester United, and I still have vivid memories of covering an Essex Senior Cup game, and a very young Freddie Ladapo played in that, and I was sat it was at one of the Essex non-league grounds, Malden or somewhere like that, and Freddie Ladapo spent the entirety of the game talking to someone in the stands. I think it was his mate or his dad or a family member or someone. He was playing up front. And, not even during breaks in play, he was sort of turning and having a chat with somebody. And there have been these kind of, as we've discussed in previous ones, enough question marks about, he's really good on his day, but there are other days where he's not on it. And, he handed in a transfer request at Rotherham, which obviously led to sort of relationships there souring. But if there's any manager that you think has got the kind of the empathetic man management nature about them to get the best out of Freddie Ladapo, then it's Kieran McKenna. I think we've seen enough of his emotional intelligence so far to be able to do that he can manage a range of characters, and hopefully he can do the same with Freddie, who is back down to sort of his neck of the woods now, someone who's from this region, and you hope that it's a marriage in heaven and he can score those goals again at this level for Ipswich.
I just think he strikes me, and this is kind of where I was coming from earlier in the last week. I think they've got Robin, and there's a Batman.
Yes, I love that analogy. Yes,
that's how it feels to me. Robin, very, very useful, but perhaps more grounded than Batman, more wholesome than Batman. And I think Ladapo could be Robin, and I've just got a feeling there's a Batman out there for a Batman and Robin.
Who's the Batman?
Christian Bale is the best Batman. If you're asking.
Have you seen the new one though?
No.
Right, you can't form an opinion.
I can form an opinion, and I have.
You can say he's the best Batman you've seen so far.
Yeah. Well, there's a real Batman out there somewhere, but I will watch it at some point. I just couldn't get to the cinema to see that one.
Fair play, fair play. I should just mention at this point, in terms of insight into both Ladapo and Dominic Ball, Ross has spoken to, done his usual excellent insight videos with fans from Rotherham and QPR, which are now available on our channel, KOA YouTube channel. So go back and watch those. Ladapo, I watched it yesterday. It was interesting, I must say. A lot of chat about lacking work rate, but scoring goals, somehow kind of getting the goals. And to be fair to the guy, he said that Ladapo is a really, really nice, good character. So it'd be interesting to see how he meshes, wasn't it? Because in terms of work rate, and you talk about Kieran McKenna never wanting his players to not be running, that wouldn't seem to fit. So you wonder how he's gonna inject himself into this team. Or maybe I'm wrong, boys. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think a lot of his football probably at Rotherham has come in a front two. At times, so how will he adapt to playing if McKenna decides to go with that similar system? How will he adapt to sort of playing as a lone striker? It might be that in the early days of when Kieran took over of Ipswich, it was the two up top with one behind. He may plan to sort of go back to that. That will be interesting to see how he adapts to that, of course. But from the clips and things that I've seen of him, he looks like someone that's more than willing to sort of drop deep, start a move, then work hard to get back into the box to get on the end of something. So we shall see. But I think Andy's right. There is another striker to come. I'm sure of it.
Batman. We need something from our sponsors' perspective, boys. We now need them to sign someone called Bags as a surname, or Sack, because then we can have Ball and Bags or Ball Sack. Use the code KOA at manscaped.com, 20% off and free delivery, friends, for all your intimate grooming needs and otherwise. They've got some great boxes, by the way. They've just brought out. Fantastic.
Mark, there's Elkin Baggett.
Oh, okay.
Can you work him into that?
Ball Baggett. Yeah. I mean, there's possibilities there. What can I say?
Definitely. Ball and Bag.
Ball and
back.
The bag man. Yeah, I like it. We've got to half an hour now, friends. There's really only one other thing we've got to discuss this week other than the signings. But as a small aside, we've got to play Andy Warren's Kit of the Week over your right-hand shoulder. Last week was Olympiakos, as I recall. What is this one? So it's, for those of you not watching, it's white with orange trim.
It's red, actually. It is red. Is it? Yeah. Might be coming across a bit orangey. I don't think you're going to get this
What's
one.
That sponsored?
It's made by Nike.
Yeah.
And then, it's a green sponsor on the front. WVK? Is that right?
Is it Dutch?
In a kind of a green.
No. It's WWK.
Okay.
See, if you could read the word, you're not going to be able to read that. If you could read the word underneath, you'd know what country it's from, but you can't. So,
okay. I've got absolutely no idea. Which isn't unusual for me. Stewie, any guesses?
No, is it an away kit, Andy?
No,
I'm out.
It's Bundesliga. Augsburg.
Oh, of course, obviously. Now you say it.
You just woke up one day and thought, I need myself an Augsburg kit.
I've been to Augsburg. I've been to a football match. I've told you about when I got hooked in by the police in Augsburg, haven't I?
Is this for ticket? Was it alleged ticket fraud? Is this where you got arrested at gunpoint?
Yeah, that was in Augsburg.
Wow.
On the station platform.
And you got to see the game still, did you? After they'd
just about, yeah, just about made it in.
Did they haul you off to the station, or did you manage to talk you out of it?
No, they did. Went to the station, fingerprints,
bloody
all
hell.
Sorts.
What's it like having a gun? What's it like having a gun pointed at you, Hutchie?
It's quite scary, mate. If I'm honest, lots of big people. For what they were accusing me of doing, which I did not do.
Little over the top story. I don't know if we've done this on the pod before, but it's
been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. All it is, it's probably 2015. We were staying in Munich. I really wanted to go watch a Bayern Munich game, but they weren't playing. But Augsburg is this lovely little town in Bavaria, not too far out. So I thought I'll drag my wife along to that. So off we go on the train. they come around on the German trains. They kind of come around. They came around, scan the ticket, and now kind of it all falls into place. Like, scan my ticket, and there were a few looks between the people, the train people, and didn't say anything.
Yeah,
and we continued on our merry way, but got off the train at Augsburg station and were met by probably 6 big, well, all bigger than me. Obviously, I'm 5'7", but big policemen with guns who kind of boxed me off, circled me off. Vicky just walked off; she was fine in the clear. But
see ya.
She just went off and had a drink. But we got surrounded by these guys with gunpoint, and they were like accusing us of fraudulently gaining our tickets, because you had to give ID to buy the tickets, and
for the train tickets.
Blimey. It was only for a relatively short train journey. Basically going from Ipswich to Chelmsford, kind of essentially.
That's heavy-handed, isn't it? Christ.
It is. So got marched off to the police station, which was just round the corner. It wasn't very far, so it was not very far. Went round the corner, did all the fingerprints and stuff. Showed them all my confirmation of look, I've got you email. Here's my email confirmation. I've bought this train ticket. It's in my name. It's got my name on it. And eventually, after a very, very long process, we eventually came to the conclusion that the reason this had happened is because I'd ended my confirmation. Some part of this confirmation I'd ended with the email address .com when my actual email address is .co.uk.
Oh,
and Andrew Warren in Las Vegas had contacted the German police because he had received this confirmation email.
Oh, wow.
And he had gone well over the top, contacted the German police, claiming that he was having his identity stolen because he'd been receiving confirmation emails because I think he had a bad experience in Germany before,
right?
From what I gather. And then he contacted the German police about it, got very, very uppity, and thus they came and found me on the platform.
Wow,
all a bit over the top. I think
you managed to sort that all out and still get to see the game.
Yeah, didn't get to have the nice afternoon in Augsburg that we were after. Lovely town if you're ever there. Really nice Bavarian town. But yeah, a little bit heavy-handed. I did then send an email to the .com version of Andrew Warren afterwards just to thank him for the additions to our holiday. But yeah, all good fun. And I got that Augsburg shirt, so
there you go. Happy
day
memories
for everyone. Yeah.
It also means, of course, now they've got your fingerprints touched, so you can't commit any further crimes in Germany, at least not unless you're wearing gloves.
Exactly. And that has limited me from this point onwards.
It's limited the Warren criminal empire.
Yeah.
Right, friends, that's an excellent story, an excellent aside. One more thing to talk about. Last week, Wednesday, I was waiting for Ipswich Town to confirm the Dominic Ball signing, which dragged on a bit, shall we say. I ended up watching Wes Burns playing for Wales in Poland on S4C. Very aggressive, harsh language, Welsh, I must say, in terms of commentary. But Wes played tremendously, I thought. I don't know how much you've seen of this. I watched the whole game in the end as I was waiting for the announcement. But we should pause to mention this because it's a big thing for Wes, obviously his Welsh debut. And I would say he was one of the better players on the pitch. Departed with Wales up 1-0. Johnny Williams, formerly of this parish, excellent goal. Obviously, they ended up losing 2-1. But I thought it'd be worth reflecting on, boys. Hutchie, did you see any of Wes? His twinkle-toed scampering feet were out. He went very close to scoring in the first half, playing on the left, unusually. So Town have solved their left-sided problem, maybe. Would give them a big issue on the right. But what have you seen it, Hutchie? What did you make of it?
No, I didn't watch it.
Good, excellent.
But very pleased. Very pleased. Yeah. I was doing other things on Wednesday. International friendlies are not my bag. But,
to be fair, I wouldn't have been watching it otherwise.
Yeah, but no, I'm really pleased for him though, because what an amazing 2 months or so he's had at the end of an equally impressive season as a whole. It just seems to be on a weekly basis. Something new and wonderful happens in the life of Wes Burns, from every award he could possibly win: Team of the Year, top scorer, new contract, Wales call up, Wales debut. didn't make the bench sheet for the game yesterday, but now Wales are going to the World Cup as well. It's not a bad little run for Wes.
He could be playing in the World Cup, boys. And what would that do to Town's chances next season?
What was he like on the left, Mark? I was interested.
Good.
Was he going on the outside of people? Was there more cutting inside a bit more?
He was cutting back in a lot. But a lot of those sort of trademark Burns scampers where he just surges forward. He looked dangerous pretty much every time he got the ball, I must say. I was very impressed with him. I was kind of surprised, actually, after that showing, that he then didn't make at least the bench for yesterday's game. I thought that he would be a bit of a shoe.
I think that probably just represents where he's come from, doesn't it? He didn't make the initial. It needed injuries for him to make the initial squad, so they've had a fairly solid core with Wales for some time. But now he's on their radar. He's been in a squad. He's played a game. They've got 3 more games to come. He's got every chance of making a squad for the World Cup now, I'd say. He's in a much, much better position than he was 2 weeks ago for that. And I think it's probably on him now. If he keeps on delivering.
He's had a bit of time to get in Gareth Bale's ear as well, which is useful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Then we can sort the left-sided problem out.
Imagine that. Wow.
He's just going to be on now Wales have qualified as well. Not that he needed any greater motivation going into next season. There was already, I think McKenna's already been in his ear about, making sure there's no second season syndrome, and you've done great, but you've got to now take it up a notch. But that little carrot of a World Cup coming up midway through the season, you would hope means that he starts next season as he finished the last. So great news for Ipswich, I think, with Wales qualifying.
Could be playing England, of course. They're in England's group. I think it's November 29th, that game, Wales-England. So, Hutchie, you've already put your name forward bravely to go and cover the World Cup, should we need anyone to. You said, I don't care that it's hot. I will make that sacrifice. I will shave my back just to go and cover that.
I would shave my back before going to Qatar. I'll be honest, as a travel destination, the Middle East has not ever really tickled me. Not bothered about Dubai, anything like that, but I would do that for the sake of the newspaper, the website, the podcast. I'd do it.
You're a good man. You're a good man. Arising from that, and it has been something that has been mentioned a couple of times already, even though he's since signed a new contract. Is there any concern about Burns this summer? Did you feel like, because obviously now he's made his international debut as well and looked really good. Clearly one of the better players in League One last season, scooped towards plenty of them. Is there any concern from you boys that maybe there might be people coming a calling for Wesley this summer?
Not unduly from my point of view. I don't think Wes Burns has made the Wales squad and made a Wales debut on the back of playing for Ipswich Town as a vital player in League One. I think the best place for him to be would to be an every week starter, playing for Ipswich Town under a manager that trusts him, under a manager he trusts. I don't think this will change an awful lot. If I'm honest, there may well be teams that have a little look, but I wouldn't be too worried about that.
No, I've got no worries about that at all. I think if there had been any doubts, any thoughts in his mind about getting a move, he wouldn't have signed that contract. Same with Wolfenden, was the only one that we kind of thought maybe might be in that position that someone might come calling. But don't underestimate players being settled and happy and enjoying their football. You don't walk away from that willy-nilly. And I think, Wolfenden and Burns have both just enjoyed their best 6-12 months, of football for a long, long time. So they've signed their contracts and I don't think they'll be going anywhere now.
There you go. Then the boys guaranteeing that Wes Burns isn't going anywhere this summer. A lot of people will be pleased about that. Hutchie, before we take our leave, I've got to ask you: when are you ever going to make that flat pack furniture that's sitting behind you?
That is up to my 4-year-old.
Wow,
that is an addition to her new bed, which is I say new. It's not new anymore because you've been looking at it for 6 months. Best part of it's a desk that goes under the bed, but she's quite enjoying the hole that is there at the moment as a little hidey hole. So until she decides she's ready to have a desk in there, this is where it lives.
As it should be, entirely up to her. Friends, have you got anything else you want to discuss before we take our leave? It's only been a 40-minute one this week. Just a couple of things to discuss. Who knows? We might be back later this week, depending on what happens. But anything else you want to add, friends?
I just think it's good that Ipswich have got a couple of deals done really early. Every summer you hear managers say, yeah, we want to get our business done early. We want to get people in before pre-season. But Ipswich have done that with a couple. There'll be more to come, and some deals just aren't possible because of the domino effect further down the line. But to get sort of two important pieces of the jigsaw in early is massive. We know that obviously, the frantic nature of last summer left everyone sort of chasing their tails a bit going into the season. We've talked a lot about Wes Burns there. I think he was the first one in the door, wasn't he? I think he was one of there was only a handful of senior players that actually started pre-season last year, and there's probably no coincidence that he's gone on to be one of Ipswich's most important players, because pre-season is where you get physically primed, where you get technically primed by the manager as well. So I think that this bodes really well for Ipswich, that they're going to be going into the start day one of pre-season with the bulk of their squad in place, and even just giving people like Ball and Ladapo time, little things like getting time to actually find a house. All pre-season last year, we're talking to players, and players were coming into pre-season. Have you found a house yet? Oh yeah, I viewed that one as well. Are you going to go for it? And it's not great, is it? We talk a lot about these people as footballers, but as human beings, when when your life is unsettled, you're not bringing your best to your job. So hopefully that's not going to be the case this time around.
When do they come back for pre-season, boys? It's the next couple of weeks, isn't it? We know.
I don't know an exact date, but it's soon. It's
are they heading straight
long.
off to Loughborough? That's where they're going to be, a little camp, isn't it?
I'd be surprised if they literally went straight to Loughborough. That I'm sure they'll come back and have pre-season testing at Ipswich and sort of get on deck in Ipswich and then head off together as a group to
the bleep test, of course. Day one. Can we finally get an insight this year into who wins the bleep test? Who's your money on? Who's the fittest player in Town squad, would you say?
Fittest player.
You're probably looking at a midfielder, aren't you? Covering a lot of ground. Dominic Ball probably have to be up there. Caden Jackson.
Fastest, Caden Jackson's got to stand a chance, hasn't he? In terms of fittest, someone like Connor Chaplin's like the Duracell bunny who just runs for days, doesn't he? That'd be interesting.
Burns would be a good bet from my point of view, but he's going to get out of all of that stuff, isn't he? Because he's going to be he'll still be away with Wales by that point playing games. So I think he might be the envy of a few of his teammates this summer, who not only has he gone away and got an international cap and might go to the World Cup, but he's probably not going to have to do quite the same amount of fitness work because he's been playing all summer. So
what's that? The bleep test? Nah, sorry, I'm playing for my country, boys. I'll leave that one to you. If you're looking for ideas, by the way, and I know Marcus at Town always looking for ideas. Pay-per-view bleep test, first day of pre-season. I'd watch that. I'd pay $5 for that. There you go. You have that one for free. All right, then, friends. That brings us to the end of a short Monday edition of the Kings of Anglia podcast. Just a reminder before we go to support our sponsor. At Manscaped, use the code KOA at manscaped.com for 20% off and free delivery. As I say, they've just launched a new range of boxer shorts, of which I have a couple of pairs, and they are tremendous. I can highly recommend them. So you can get 20% off and free delivery with that code KOA. And also support us across all our social medias, Kings of Anglia on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We'll take our leave now. Who knows, we may be back later on this week, where hopefully we'll be talking about Town signing their Batman ball bags they'll be signing later this week. Fingers crossed. Have a great start to the week, friends. And we'll speak to you again next time.